grouping. Okay, so now we can group our pivot table, and I'll show you 3 different ways how we can do that. One of them is grouping numbers, the other one is grouping the date, and also we can also group by text. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just drop in another pivot table. Click in there, insert pivot table. Let's go to our grouping area here. Let's go into the numbers. All right, and do it in there. So we're going to drop in here are the sales in the row labels. Okay, something that's not usually done. So let's drop it in there, and it shows us all the unique sales amounts. Okay, you got heaps there. Okay, and we can just click in there, right click, and choose group. Okay, and it automatically chooses where to start and where to end by the minimum maximum amount. And these are the increments, 10,000, and we can put in 100,000, or we can put in 20,000, whatever we want. Let's just use 10,000 and press OK. And look at that, it gives us the sales ranges. Okay, so now what we can do is grab the sales and drop it in here. Okay, now it gives us the count of sales. So it just counts how many transactions are between 0 and 9,999, and then so on. Okay, now let's drop in the sales in here again, and instead of having a count, let's choose the sum. Okay, so we have the sum in there. So we have the sum and the count. So for example, for the sales range 90,000 and 99,000, so between 90,000 and say 100,000, so the sales, individual sales value between that range, we had sales of $5.8 million. That's what it's saying there. And we had 62 transactions between that sales range. Okay, if you want to ungroup it, right click and just press ungroup. Okay, now date fields. What I'm going to do is go in here and just create a quick pivot table again. It takes us a few seconds. Okay, and drop it in here. Now what I'm going to do in here is drop in the order date in the row labels. Order date, row labels. So it gives us the unique order dates. Okay, all right, so from in here we just right click and group. Okay, because it's dates, Excel is smart enough and it gives us the grouping by the dates. Okay, so we can group by days. If it's in blue, it means it's selected, and click again to unselect. Okay, so we can select in quarters. Okay, because the starting and ending date is automatic, and just leave it like that, quarters, and press OK. And you can see it's done in quarters. Let's press Ctrl Z to go back, and then right click and group. Let's do by days. Okay, when we choose days, it gives us the number of days option, scroll bar. So let's choose 7. Okay, so 1 week. Let's group by weeks and press OK. So you can group by weeks. So now we've got that, we can put in our sales and say, okay, how much sales did we make for that week? Go like that. Now we're getting a count of sales. The reason why we're getting a count of sales, a couple of reasons. One is that you may have in your sales column a blank cell. If you have at least one blank cell, you're gonna get a count of sales. Another way is that, let's go back in here, is because once we group values and then you create another pivot table like we have now, it gives you a count. Okay, so don't freak out if you get a count. All you got to do is just click in here, okay, and then just put in and double click sum. Okay, so we have the different sales values that, or the total sales per week. So you can see there, okay, the different sales per week. All right, now finally we can put in there another pivot table. Okay, You see that? It's just in there. All right, now let's move this across in here so you guys can see a little bit better. Now we're going to put in the regions in the row labels and the years in the column labels. Okay, so, and also let's not forget sales in the values area. Okay, we get a count because we have a grouped sales before. Okay, let's put in that. Okay, perfect. Okay, so what we can do now is we can actually group text. For example, let's just say that our organization changed and Americas and Europe is one region or one pole or whatever you want to call it, and Asia and Africa is just a different region or pole. What we can do is name this West. So highlight that, right click and group. So it automatically gives us a group name, group 1, and then it puts those into separate groups as well. So let's just don't worry about this now. It gives us group 1. Let's change that. Let's change that to West. Let's just type in there West. Okay. And in here, let's just highlight all that, right click and group and name that East. So we have our two groups, East and West. Okay. And you can see here, region 2 has been created here. Okay. Because we've grouped text. What we can do now is we can actually grab this and move it across. Okay. Just like that, and we can have East and West, and we can see the different values that pertain to the West. You can see it's only America and Europe, and East only Asia and Africa. Okay, or we can just move it back like that. So you can group text as well.